welcome to UWS News. I'm Ewan Lawson.
And I'm Jyoti Chopra. Today's headlines. The new drink driving law comes into effect today, which is causing confusion with some drivers. A major anti-fracking demonstration is taking place in Grangemouth this Sunday. We've got one of the campaigners in the studio. And with Christmas just around the corner, there's nothing nicer than visiting what some think is Scotland's most wonderful of winter wonderlands.
Today, Scotland lowers its drink driving limits, reducing alcohol consumption from 80 milligrams to 50 milligrams per 100 millilitres of blood. We sent reporter Gregor Aiken to find out more.
The alcohol limit is lowering in a bid to make Scottish roads safer. The Scottish Parliament unanimously voted in favour of lowering the blood alcohol limit by 30 milligrams in every 100 millilitres of blood on November 18th. The new law means an average man can consume less than 1 pint of beer or a large glass of wine. On the other hand, an average woman is restricted to half a pint of beer or alternatively a small glass of wine. I headed out onto the streets of Ayr to get the public's reaction.
I think that's good. I think the limit should be reduced even further to the point where if you have any alcohol in your system at all, you should not be driving.
And why do you think that?
It's just I've had a few friends go like, I'm going for a pint, they have a pint, then they drive, and I just don't feel comfortable in the car with them.
Well, I suppose probably now with the law it's not okay to have one, so yeah, it's the law, it's the law.
I think it's a bit ridiculous actually, because some people have pints and things when they go out for a meal, a family meal, like a birthday meal, someone's got to drive. Like 1 pint, fair enough, everyone has their different limits, but I just think it's a bit ridiculous.
Shouldn't be drink driving anyway.
I think it's good. I personally, if I'm going to drive at all, I don't touch anything. But I think the way it'll affect people the most is the morning after. If there's still alcohol in the system, especially young folk, if they're out on a big binge, a heavy night the night before, I think the next morning a few will get caught out because there'll still be some in the system.
With the new laws in place, Scotland gets into line with the rest of Europe, drawing closer to a zero-tolerance policy. Gregor Aiken reporting, UWS News. Back to you in the studio.
So with us now we have Police Officer Blackley. Now the limit's been set at 50 milligrams, and I think the question a lot of people have is why not just set that to zero?
The limit can't be zero because there's alcohol naturally present in some medications, mouthwashes, as much as we would like it to be. It can, however, our message this year is clear that don't risk it.
Do you think that makes it slightly more difficult to enforce that it's been set lower?
No, it's just as easy to enforce as before, and we fully expect for 35 more drivers per month to lose their licence during the festive period.
How confident do you feel this new measure will save lives?
Oh, undoubtedly it'll save lives. As I say, over 35 more drivers will lose their licence, and the advice that we're giving all drivers this year is there's no safe alcohol driving limit.
And you think it's particularly important around this time of year then, around the Christmas season?
It's more prevalent at this time of year with office parties and nights out. However, it is a problem that affects many lives throughout the year in Scotland.
Okay, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. An unlikely social group could determine the outcome of next year's government. Students are making a plan of action to make a big impact on the next vote. Reporting from the University of the West of Scotland, Francesca Hashimi speaks with the campus president.
Students have the power to swing next year's general election, shifting power from the Liberal Democrat seats in favour of Labour candidates. However, with a reputation of being an apolitical generation, will students actually turn out to cast their ballot on May the 7th? Cal Reid is the student president for the University of the West of Scotland's Ayr campus, and his contemporary ideas are a lot grander than the historic public debate.
And the referendum was a major part of that, and seeing 16-year-olds voting, seeing 16-year-olds to 18-year-olds going out to vote, seeing young people going out to vote, I think that's encouragement enough. And to see what happened, like the aftermath of the vote and what's going on with the vote, I think that's going to encourage more young people who notice that there is major change that can happen from these elections, let them be national or local. There is change to be made. Even with our student elections, voting for our sabbatical officers and trustees, there are some who just aren't interested, and the right to abstain is essentially saying I don't believe in any of these parties, which is also absolutely fair enough.
The student president's goal is to introduce a voting registration system through the student enrolment process. This would give all university goers the option to sign up to the electoral roll through a digital or online system. And since the Ayr campus sits on one of 11 marginal constituencies, if this process is implemented before the general election, University of the West of Scotland could be one of the campuses that swung it.
Students moving to Ayr for their studies should have the right to vote for their local constituency and see determine who's in what seat in what constituency. No matter if it's Ayr, which is South Ayrshire, Renfrewshire, Lanarkshire, Dumfries and Galloway. So the student vote should count somewhere.
A major anti-fracking demonstration is taking place in Grangemouth this Sunday. We've got one of the speakers in the studio, Professor John Robertson, the UWS Media and Politics Professor.
Hi there.
So Professor Robinson, you'll be at the event on Sunday. What exactly is your role going to be?
Well, my role is concerned with media coverage. In particular, there will be several speakers, including some real experts on the chemistry of the whole thing, but I'll be talking about, in particular, the lack of coverage. On Friday past, the government's chief scientific advisor, I can't remember his name, but he's the chief scientific advisor, he made a connection between the rush to use fracking with the rush we had in the past towards thalidomide, asbestos and so on. Now that struck me as a real headline story, but it wasn't reported in the mainstream media over the weekend. And that's generally my area of interest, is the neglect of important stories.
I see. So that's similar to the coverage you did during the referendum, then it's about selective reporting almost.
Yes, although you use the word selective, and I don't see it as something very conscious. I think it's partly unconscious that people working in mainstream media, I think, are used to working in certain ways. I don't think there's a conspiracy to deny access to certain things. I think there's just a tendency, a habit.
How will this be compared to any other events that you've spoken at?
Well, we're expecting about 1,000, so it's not small by any means. 1,000 people is quite a size. I've spoken at the BBC bias protests were about 5,000 strong, but 1,000 is a reasonable number.
Okay, well thank you for coming in today.
Pleasure.
And now we have Thomas McIntosh for the sport.
Celtic midfielder Alexander Tonev will have to wait another 2 weeks to discover if his appeal against his 7-game suspension is successful. The Bulgarian was found guilty for racially abusing Aberdeen's Shalem Logan back in September. Bottom of the table, Ross County take on Dundee United in Dingwall this evening. A win for Jackie McNamara's side will see them leapfrog Inverness into second place in the table. There is also a full fixture list in this weekend's Scottish Premiership. Motherwell welcomes Celtic to Fir Park in tomorrow's lunchtime kick-off. Aberdeen take on Hamilton at Pittodrie. Dundee face High Flyers Inverness. Partick Thistle host Kilmarnock, and struggling St Mirren are at home to St Johnstone. That's all from me. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Thomas. So this week, Lee Mackey had the lucky assignment of meeting with one of the top 10 chocolatiers in Europe. This family-run business has been on the go for 11 years now, and it certainly has a sweet smell of success.
The Oban Chocolate Company, who have created mouth-watering treats such as the Iron Brew Eclair, as well as many others, have just been voted in as one of the top 10 chocolatiers in Europe. The vote was compiled by the Berlin-based travel site Go Euro, with the Oban Chocolate Company being the only shop in the UK to make the list.
In 2003, my husband and I went backpacking around Australia after university, and we got our inspiration to visit to a chocolate factory in the Margaret River area. We came back to our hometown of Oban and started writing a business plan, and 11 years later here we are. I think the Oban Chocolate Company has made it into the top 10 chocolatiers in Europe because we just put a fantastic amount of effort into everything we do. The quality of our product obviously speaks for itself, and we work very hard to maintain all the standards about the business, the cafe, the factory, birthday cakes, everything, the whole package.
So, with their newfound fame, the chocolates are winging their way around the world, which can be accessed through the company's website. And with Christmas just around the corner, you have just about enough time to get those extra stocking fillers. This has been Lee Mackey for UWS News in Oban.
This Christmas, Killeen Castle will hold the Magical Castle seasonal event, entertaining visitors of all ages. The event will take place on Sunday, December the 7th and Sunday, December the 14th, and will include activities such as tasting some mulled wine, visiting Santa's grotto, and listening to some festive music. Amy Stevenson reports.
Killeen Castle, set on a stunning and dramatic clifftop, will this year be the magnificent setting of a magical winter wonderland. The beautifully sculptured landscaped gardens are an unusual shade of lush green for this time of year. However, the decorating has already begun, and it is a certainty that the beautiful exterior will provide a picturesque location for the event. The clock tower area will be transformed into Santa's grotto, where children can meet characters like Mrs. Claus, the Queen of Hearts and Puss in Boots. Decorations have already started arriving for this weekend's festivities, and preparations are well underway. Whatever the weather this weekend, Killeen Castle's Winter Wonderland is sure to be a spectacular event, only enhanced by these amazing views.
Something fun to do this Christmas. That's it from UWS News Today. Thank you for watching. Have a good afternoon.
Goodbye.